Good morning. I am Jordan Hunter. My pronouns are he, him, and I have some opening words for this morning. In the spirit of remembering the 4th of July, I find the words of Frederick Douglass echo many of my sentiments. Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men too, great enough to give frame to a great age. It does not often happen to a nation to raise, at one time, such a number of truly great men. The point from which I am compelled to view them is not certainly the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. With a story that is important as this one, as it's retold to inspire generations, it can't forsake those on the margins, such as the many women that we're about to hear about today that we should know, especially as they worked alongside and helped drive the revolutionary action to make our country as it is. And for our official welcome and announcements, we'll have Kathy Wade.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church on this very special holiday weekend. I'm Kathy Wade, your worship associate today. And at Heritage, all are welcome, regardless of race or creed, age or gender, life experience or beliefs. What we do have in common is an overriding spirit of love for one another. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or joining us via Zoom, we say hello to those. You may be watching this service, or you may be watching this service in the future as it becomes available on our website. We're very glad that you are here. If this is your first time at Heritage, we invite you to fill out a name tag. And also, the ushers have given out information cards that look like this. So newcomers and regulars are also invited to fill out the card and give us your updated information. And include a way that we can get in touch with you. You can also connect with our greeter from the Board of Trustees, Sue Rahal. There's Sue, who would be happy to talk with you after the service and give you a tour if you like. This morning, Tracy Jo Duckworth, Jordan Hunter, and I are teaming up for today's service. During this 250th anniversary of the signing of America's Declaration of Independence, we at Heritage are taking time to honor the women patriots who so often get forgotten. And so we invite you to sit back and hear their stories and sing along. And just a reminder to those of you here in person, please do set your phones to airplane mode, or you can turn them off altogether, as they can distract from the service. And one more thing. On the opposite side of your order of service, you'll find information on what is going on in this community and beyond. So do feel free to get involved, and especially look at those announcements that say stay connected. And now please rise as you are able and willing for our opening song, "This Land is Your Land." The words will be projected on the wall.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. walking that ribbon of highway. I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Sunshine strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling. As the fog was lifting, my voice was chanting. This land was made for you and me. Shadow, I saw my people. By the relief harvest, I seen my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? But living can never stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can ever make me turn back. This land was made for you and me.
You can be seated. Today we gather to mark a nation's independence and to reflect on what true liberty requires. It has been our custom to quote our nation's founding fathers. Words have power. The poetry of the written and spoken words from our country's founding still echo in our hearts. Today, let us look to our founding mothers. What would they have to say about our nation on this 250th anniversary of our independence? Their wisdom and prophetic vision continue to speak truth to power. May our time together be a comfort to the afflicted, an inspiration for the active, and a call to love ever more broadly. Come, let us worship together.
If you'll rise again, our next hymn is going to be 159. It's This Is My Song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
And if you'll remain standing for our covenant. By this covenant, we affirm that love is the spirit of this church, and the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve in humankind and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. And if you are young at heart or children of all ages, it's time for our all ages portion. You come to the front.
Neil, thank you. Children of any ages, would you like to come forward? I have a very fun story that involves a stick. So I'm sure lots of people of any age might want to come. And you can sit in the chairs here if you want, if that's more comfortable. You just go ahead and sit in the chairs. Sure, whatever. So glad you're here. We have to use our imagination today. This chair is not just a chair. This chair is a horse. Can you see it? Yeah, this is the saddle, and this is the place where you hold the reins and so on. Have you ever ridden a horse? You have? Did you ride side saddle? Do you even know what side saddle is? Yeah, some people here probably know what side saddle is. So in our world today, when we ride a horse, so again, this is the head of the horse. This is how we ride it. We straddle it like this. You've seen it either in real life or in movies, pictures, and so on. But way back 250 years ago, women had to ride like this. They sat on the side of the horse with their legs together because it wasn't polite to straddle a horse. And they had to face forward and the head of the horse and hold on to the reins. So I'm here to tell you a story, actually two stories. A man named Paul Revere. Have you ever heard of Paul Revere? No? Yeah. I bet most of the adults here have heard of Paul Revere, right? He was given a task or a job many, many years ago, 250-ish years ago, and his job was to go and ride through the countryside to tell people that the British were invading the country. One man is the story that we heard, but it was actually three men, and took Paul Revere about 2 hours-ish. And he rode for about, we don't know exactly, but probably somewhere between 15 and 20 miles. He did not complete his task. He was captured. Unfortunately, he was let go. So 20-ish miles, 15 miles, 2 hours, he had the moon to guide his way. Another time and place, there was a woman named Sybil Luddington. And I say woman, and she really wasn't a woman. She was 16 years old. She was a girl. So a little older than you are, but 16 years old. And in 1777, she lived on a farm with her parents, one of whom was Colonel Luddington. And word came that the town of Danbury, Connecticut was on fire. And so Colonel Luddington's job was to muster the troops. Not mustard, but muster, M-U-S-T-E-R. So he had to stay at the farm, and it was the task, the job of Sybil Luddington, 16 years old, to get on the horse on, yes, it was a dark and stormy night. It really was. It was raining, it was mud-filled, and Sybil Luddington rode side saddle with a stick in her hand. I told this story to my husband because I practiced, and he said, "Oh, do you think she really rode side saddle that whole time?" Like, it's a mystery, I don't really know. But the story goes, she rode for 40 miles. 40 miles, side saddle. And as she approached a house, she took her stick, and she rode right up on the horse, on her stick, and with her stick, to a house, and rapped on the window or the door, until she saw the lights come on. Now, they didn't have light switches like we do. Just turn the light switch on. They had to light a lantern or a candle or something. When she saw the lights come on in the house, she would say to them, "The British are burning Danbury. Muster the troops." Oh, and let's put the picture of Sybil up there, because I've seen this statue. Look at the face of Sybil. She's fierce. She's ready to go. I love this picture, okay? As she rode around and went to the houses, many, many houses in those 40 miles, some people didn't believe her. Some people knew her as Sybil Luddington, Colonel Luddington's daughter. Some people tried to stop her. Some people were outraged. What is a 16-year-old girl doing out on a dark and stormy night, riding through the countryside, side saddle? I mean, of course, they didn't care about side saddle because that's how women were supposed to ride, but alone at night with only a stick to protect her. She rode for 9 hours, probably amount of time that you slept last night, hopefully. Hopefully all of us got our 8 to 9 hours in. She rode for 40 miles. She completed her task. She came back, and no one wrote a word about her. She wrote it in her journal, in her diary, but no one said anything. Her father, Colonel Ludington, actually said the troops were mustered. Didn't say by whom. And so my story is that history, let's break that word down, history. It's actually 2 words. His story. History. Who do you think men or women wrote his story? Yeah? Any ideas? If you get a 50-50 chance on this one. Mom says probably a boy. Yeah. And that's true. For much of history, men, boys, grown men were the ones who wrote the story. And so often, the women's names did not get recorded, did not get celebrated. I mean, in my life, I don't care whether you're 16 or 60, riding a horse for 40 miles in the dark rain, that's a task. Sybil Ludington was not just a rider. I mean, you can see the fierceness in her eyes. She was a revolutionary. She was a true patriot. She did, like so many other women, she did what had to be done, saved what had to be saved, fought what had to be fought. And so in today's world, I say she did more. Some would say more than Paul Revere did, yet we all know Paul Revere's name. So will you say the name of Sybil Ludington with me together? Sybil Ludington. Thanks for coming to hear my story. If anyone wants my stick later, you can have it. It's a fierce stick.
Back on mic. Yeah. So it is time for a special ritual here at Heritage. Each Sunday, we're invited to come to the altar and hold the mic, say our name, and share a joy or a sorrow with one another. This reminds us that we are spiritually connected, and that in prayer and sharing with one another, we grow in love and compassion. Jordan will light a candle for your intentions, symbolizing the light of love that we extend to one another. So we'll ask you when it's time to please line up on the outside aisles of the sanctuary if you have a joy or a sorrow to share. Speak into the mic, say your name, and very briefly, let us know what is in your heart. Okay. Thank you, Jordan. So, we're going to talk a little bit, excuse me, about our founding mothers shortly, but we want to also share with you not a founding mother, but a very memorable individual. And her name is Phyllis Wheatley. That's how she is known to us. She was a very well-known poet, but she has another story. She was seized from West Africa, and her African name is still unknown. And she was transported to Boston in 1761 with a shipment of refugee slaves. A prominent Boston family purchased her guessing she was about 7 because she had lost her 2 front teeth. That's all they knew about her. But soon, the Wheatley family recognized how intelligent she was, and they taught her to read and to write. And soon she was immersed in the Bible, in astronomy, geography, history, British literature, and the Greek and Latin classics. And though she still had to perform domestic duties for the Wheatleys, she was soon writing her own poetry. By the time she was 18, her owner had gathered a collection of 28 poems and went about the business of helping her publish. When the colonists were unwilling to support literature by an African, she and the Wheatleys turned to London for a publisher. Eventually, her poems were published in both America and England. She was the first African-American woman to do so when she was 21, and that was in 1773. So I'm not going to read all 28 of her poems, don't worry. But I would like to share an excerpt from one poem. I believe Lucy is going to project it. She writes, "Should you wonder from whence my love of freedom sprung, whence flow these wishes for the common good, I, young in life, by seeming cruel fate, was snatched from Africa's fancied happy seat. Such my case. And can I then but pray others may never feel tyrannic sway?" That's Phyllis Wheatley. You can look her up. And now Louise will tell us about the organization we're sharing our abundance with this week.
Good morning. I'm Louise Lawari. So here at Heritage, we pass the plate, so to speak, like they do in many houses of worship. But our invitation to share from our abundance has a little twist, something that makes Heritage different from other places of worship. Because everything, as in 100% of your offering, is sent directly to the organization chosen for this week. Whether you put it in the plate or you make an electronic donation through the Braver Angels link that will be on our website. And I think that should show up for the folks on Zoom. So this week, as we wrap up the 4th of July weekend, Braver Angels will be the recipient of our outreach offering. Braver Angels is a particularly fitting organization for us to recognize this weekend. As you know, the birth of our nation 250 years ago was a messy process, and the last 250 years continue to be a messy process as we try to learn into our ideals. And it seems that the divide that we're experiencing today makes it even harder for us to work together. So that's where Braver Angels comes in. Braver Angels is the nation's largest cross-partisan, that is a phrase I don't think I have ever heard before, cross-partisan grassroots movement dedicated to working to depolarize our politics. It brings together the Reds, conservative people, and the Blues, the liberal Americans, to engage in respectful dialogue, reduce stereotypes, and discover shared civic values without compromising people's own core values. Braver Angels' mission is to inspire and equip citizens to practice, I love this phrase, courageous citizenship across political differences. They began by bringing red and blue people together in a carefully structured workshop to listen to each other's values and try to find common ground. And I find it particularly interesting to know the person who crafted those workshops was a marriage therapist. Heritage has hosted 2 Braver Angels workshops here, and those workshops have been aimed at helping us individually work to depolarize ourselves and remove our own us and them thinking, and then to learn skills for more practical dialogue. So Braver Angels' focus on courageous citizenship moves the needle from listening to each other to sharing civic engagement around values we hold in common. Common good, that's also something we don't hear talked about much, not enough. And it's moving from talking to action together with people we didn't think we could work with. So Braver Angels had their annual conference last weekend, their annual convention in Philadelphia. And at that convention, they drafted, stood together, ratified, and voted on a pledge that they were all willing to make together. So I'm going to share this pledge with you, and maybe we can put it in our own hearts. I pledge to be a courageous citizen, to choose curious listening over contempt, to build alongside those with different politics, and to embrace our shared duty to renew America's civic culture. It seems to me that if there are to be 250 more years of our nation, it will require this kind of effort. And Braver Angels is working to teach us the way. So your support for Braver Angels is greatly appreciated.
So you may have noticed that our theme, and it's at the top of your order of service, is reflections on the 4th of July from our founding mothers. And it's from our founding mothers and about some of our founding mothers. So we grew up learning about Betsy Ross and Martha Washington. But there are many other bold, intrepid, and brave female patriots who served the cause of American independence. Today we share with you a few of those women patriots. The first is Sally St. Clair. She up there. Sally St. Clair was a woman who allegedly disguised herself as a man and kept her true identity a secret from the other soldiers. We don't know how she did that. The truth about Sally's gender was only discovered as her body was being prepared for burial. And Sally represents the nameless women putting themselves in harm's way for their new country. The next, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Taiona Yanigan and her husband and their Oneida Nation chose to support the colonists in the American Revolution, when most indigenous sided with the British. They fought together in 2 battles, and when her husband was shot, she fired the pistols. The next is Deborah Sampson. She was 21 when she enlisted in Massachusetts, again by disguising herself as a man. When she received a gunshot wound during a skirmish, she pulled the bullet out herself to avoid medical care that might have revealed her true gender. After receiving an honorable discharge, she successfully petitioned for a military pension. And following her death, a congressional committee awarded her husband a widower's pension. Mary Hayes Macaulay is better known as Molly Pitcher because she often brought a pitcher of water to the battlefield. She took her husband's place loading a cannon at the Battle of Monmouth in 1778. So we say her real name, Mary Hayes Macaulay, because women often got nicknames and were not really known. Next is Margaret Cochran Corbin. She too was ferrying water to her husband when he was killed while manning a cannon. She took her husband's place on the cannon crew until she too was shot and permanently disabled. She was known as Captain Molly, and George Washington designated her a non-commissioned officer. She was the first woman to receive a military pension, although it was half the pay of a soldier in service. I have to get my paper here. The next one is probably our most well-known, and that is Abigail Adams. You probably know that Abigail Adams and Barbara Bush are the only 2 women to have been married to one U.S. president and the mother of another. Abigail Adams was a Unitarian. She is known to have written over 1,100 letters in her lifetime. And today she would probably be an avid user of texting and emails.
I'm so confused. What has happened to my clothes? Where in the world am I?
I'm just going to say, she encouraged and pleaded with her husband, John Adams,
Yes, that's
to
my
award.
husband.
Oh, that's. You're at Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church.
Is that like a Unitarian church?
Well, yes, but who are you?
I am Abigail Adams, and I demand that my clothes be returned to me right now. What are these things on my feet?
Those are Birkenstocks.
Is that like a Unitarian thing?
This is 2026.
2026? Oh my gosh, it worked. None of you have hats on. I'm taking mine off. It worked. Benjamin Franklin? You know him? Yeah. He will be so thrilled. It really, really worked. It's 2026. Benjamin is quite an inventor. He invented bifocals. He invented the odometer, also the lightning rod, and when I left, he was working on a flexible urinary catheter, and he asked me to be the guinea pig. I said, no thank you. He was also working on a time machine. And that's how I got here today. The only thing that seems to have survived was my hat, my basket, and my pearls. Now, my hat and my basket were made by Julia Sandman. Some of you might know her. Quite talented. She makes all my clothes. Oh, I'm just so excited. When Benjamin and I were working on the time machine and when to come forward, we could have gone backwards, but we decided to go forward 250 years, and we chose this year because we thought surely all the problems that plagued men in 1700s would be solved by now, right? Yeah, all the problems. And why is it always the men? Surely you have a woman president by now. No woman president? Close but no cigar, I heard. Oh. But the real mystery is, how do I know how to use a microphone? That's the real mystery. When I left Boston, which was actually Braintree, really, where I lived, we were in the midst of a smallpox outbreak. Everyone was terrified. We were so afraid. Many people died. You probably haven't lived through anything like that. Oh, you have? Okay. Well, I believe in science. John and I, fervent believers in science. And it was very controversial. But in 1776, I had all of our children inoculated. Yeah. Now, I can't imagine vaccinations are controversial today. Oh, you're a good audience. You're laughing at all the right lines. In my time, though, husband and wife were considered as one person. And you can imagine, yes, what history tells us that person was the man, the husband. A married woman like myself had no control. I could not own property, sign legal documents, enter into contracts. I had no legal control over children, or could I obtain an education against my husband's wishes, or keep wages for myself. A little bit like being an enslaved person. Not a good comparison, but it is a little like that. But I've always felt that a person's intelligence is directly reflected by the number of conflicting points of view that he or she can entertain simultaneously on the same topic. That's why I've always emphasized women's rights and advocating for equality, urging us to ensure that all voices are heard in the creation of laws and policies. I have also encouraged continued education, whether in the home or outside of the home, and political engagement for women. I've written John many times, thousands of times, and some of those letters have survived. Once I wrote that the relationship between virtue and power concludes that men tempted by revenge, ambition, pride, lust, profit, will descend to base and vile action. Now that probably doesn't describe anyone that's in power today. I can't imagine. I wrote letters just like you write emails and texts, and I wrote in 1776 as John and many of the men were assembled at the Continental Congress to decide what to do. And I wrote to him quite boldly, I might say, even though John certainly was unusual in respecting me as a woman. These were quite strong words. And by the way, in the new code of laws, which I suppose it will be necessary for you to make, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice, no representation. I even called for establishing some laws in our favor upon just and liberal principles. That's what the men were asking of the British. So we women were asking the same thing of the men. John's response? He laughed. He actually mocked me. He wrote back in jest, I think, perhaps, not sure, but still, I was deeply hurt. I've written many, many letters to many other people also. I wrote once to my son, John Quincy, perhaps you know him. Such a proud mom moment, he became president also. And I wrote, great necessities call out great virtues. I think those might be words that we need to hear here in this space today again. Great necessities call out great virtues. And then I wrote what I call a strongly worded email to all of you. 250 years ago, 250 years after the men signed that piece of paper. John and I were separated for a total of 10 years during our marriage. The children were young, and we were right on the front lines with soldiers and refugees streaming by our house every day. I hope you can understand how much all of us have sacrificed so you could sit in these chairs here today. Countless generations of Americans have benefited from our resolve. Words, both written and spoken, have power. Use yours wisely. Even simple names are important. I have named our home Peacefield, as we have seen years and years of blood shed upon our own soil. I look at every word before I speak or write it, and I remember this is Abigail, not me, saying that. But she said she often had to bite her tongue, literally, to keep from saying things. I regret having said that all men would be tyrants. There's usually not an all, everything. Yes, we have too many high-sounding words and too few actions that correspond with them. We must combine our thoughts and words with positive actions, reaching out to those who think differently from us. They want the same things we do. I hope some future day will bring me the happiness of seeing my family again collected under our roof, happy in ourselves and blessed in each other. We all want the same things. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, yes, we the people, that means all of us. It is up to all of us. We cannot be all and do all. We can only do our best. In small ways and large ways, no action is too small. We have the means of being the freest and the happiest people upon this globe. Expect it. We did in 1776. I will continue my persona of Abigail Adams, and so during coffee hour, if you have any questions for me, I will answer in the best way that I know how. Will you rise for our closing song? Verse we can make a circle around.
I think I'll use this.
Okay.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the place that was meant to be, with God as creator. We are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment like this eternally. Let there be peace on earth and